Hello, David.
Hi, Rosabelle. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. What's the weather like in New Zealand today?
It's actually so sunny today. It's nice because as you may or may not know, we had a lot of rain recently.
Oh, that's so good. It's actually almost the opposite to today's topic being sunny because we are looking at emos, and emos are grey and emotional and down.
Yeah, but even an emo can move through the world on a sunny day in their own emo way.
This is true. I feel like you don't often see them on a sunny day, but I guess you don't see many of them around at all these days.
Yeah, maybe that's just about where you're going. Maybe you're not going to the emo hang spots, you know?
When I say emo, what comes to mind for you? Because I know in New Zealand we had a lot of emos, sort of a thing in the early 2000s, right?
Yeah, I guess it's the fringe, isn't it? That classic emo fringe and a lip piercing. My Chemical Romance, is that like an emo band?
Definitely, yeah, that was emo. I feel like you had a bit of a fringe going on at one point.
That's just my fashion. That's not emo. That's just my haircut.
I'm David Farrier, a New Zealander accidentally marooned in America, and I want to figure out what makes this country tick. Now, growing up in New Zealand, there was this time in the mid-2000s when a certain American music genre seemed to get very, very big. If I remember correctly, it was led by bands like My Chemical Romance and Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy, and Paramore. On every street corner, down every alleyway, there also seemed to be a teenager with a giant black fringe covering their face. I'm talking, of course, about emo music, and I can already feel fans and enemies readying their keyboards to send me messages about how those bands aren't even emo, or aren't the originals, or a host of other complaints. But it struck me recently that I'm now living in the country that gave birth to emo music, out of the mid-80s hardcore scene in Washington, D.C., according to a brief look on Wikipedia. And when I saw an advertisement for something called Emo Night here in LA, I saw it as a sign from the heavens, or hell, or maybe purgatory, that it was finally time to do this episode. So, grow out that fringe and get ready to argue a lot about the origins of the scene and what it all means, because this is the emo episode.
Flightless bird touchdown in America. I'm a flightless bird touchdown in America. La da 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 do do do.
God, that was incredible. Who was that?
That's my friend Nick Thomas.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
He's a big fan of the show, and I've known him for a long time. He's in this band called the Spill Canvas.
And was your pitch just take this theme and please make it emo?
Yes, exactly.
And they absolutely nailed it.
Yes.
Because I know, and one of the joys of those live shows that we did was having a band redo our theme song every show. And I love it. And I love, God, that was good. It sets the tone, right?
And a fun backstory, I think a tornado ripped through his town yesterday.
Oh, God.
And he lost power, and he just got that finished like 20 minutes ago.
Oh, that's insane. Is he okay?
Yeah.
Apart from that? Yeah. That's also very American, the whole tornado thing. Like, that doesn't happen in New Zealand where someone's like, I couldn't deliver the theme song because a tornado ripped through my neighborhood.
Yeah, when I was finishing the last take.
Oh, it's amazing he even did it.
Yeah.
My God. Okay. I'm excited about this episode because I also feel like you know a lot about this. I know less about it, but I'm eternally fascinated.
I feel like almost out of every topic, I don't want to say an expert at it because I think the term can be debated.
Yeah.
But I know a lot about this era. Like, that was growing up in the suburbs of Chicago. Like,
right.
A lot of emo music, I think, came from there.
My friend Amy is in a band and she's been in LA forever. And I started just quizzing her about emo music because I knew it is debatable. And like, this is how that conversation went.
Very strong hold on fucking emo.
Okay.
They say the word emo, where it came from. Wait, are you recording me? Fuck up! No.
She got really angry at me when
Yeah.
I was secretly recording her, but she went on this extended rant about the origins of where emo came from, and I wish I'd been able to capture it, but she got very angry.
Do you have a loose?
No, I couldn't follow.
No, couldn't follow at all.
It was like I'm trying to do an episode at the moment about ska music, and I'm running into the same problem of just being there's too much. And so I'm so glad you're here to kind of steer this direction of what we're going to talk about, because it's such an insane world.
Well, I think the lines are blurred between emo music and pop punk.
Okay.
Like I think that's where a lot of debate about emo music comes.
And I feel like I mentioned Paramore in the intro. I feel like maybe Paramore comes into that a little bit as well. They're more pop punky.
Even like Fall Out Boy. All right, so I made a little presentation just because
God, Rob.
there is so much like within this genre.
Yeah.
That I mean, we on our drive to Bend,
you gave me a brief preview of your knowledge of emo.
It was just a dump of like, let's bounce around from music.
And I remember getting very annoyed at you at one point because I was actually getting into some of those songs, and then you'd be like, no, on with the education. We're skipping to the next track. I'll be like, I want to finish this track.
So as a result of that, I didn't want this just turn into rambling and sounding like an idiot without any coherent through line.
I love this.
So I put together a little mini presentation before we get to your doc stuff.
I feel like I'm going back to school, almost.
Yeah. Just on my thoughts on emo and my journey through it and what I think about it.
Very quickly, just as a quite annoying deviation before we get into your presentation, just some quick stuff about last week.
Yes.
Because we got a lot of feedback about the autism episode. But one thing I just wanted to clear up at the top, which I forgot about and I kicked myself because I meant to bring it up, got a whole lot of people emailing in saying you must listen to this incredible podcast called the Telepathy Tapes. And I was just like, I wish I brought this up because I truly hate the Telepathy Tapes. It's basically, if you don't know it got big because Rogan mentioned it on his podcast and instantly it went to the top of the charts. People are still finding it. And it's like sort of like an investigative podcast. The central premise being that autistic children
are magical, right?
Yeah, they're magical beings. Yeah, essentially they can actually communicate through telepathy. And so many people have written to me now being like, this is incredible. I can't believe this is happening. You should listen to it. And I just want to say at the front, it's utter bollocks. And it's also, like Bigfoot, I kind of love delving into telepathy. I can't even say it. Telepathy,
I think.
It's funny. Yeah. But when you're sort of bringing this particular podcast in, it's just making like autistic kids magical little fairies. And if you listen, and I've listened to the whole series, it ends with them kind of communicating via angels in heaven. And it's stay away from it is my main point. And also a lot of people sending me, which I appreciate, videos of a man who has created ice cream out of the cum tree. Have you seen this video?
No. No.
He's a guy who basically makes intriguing ice cream flavors, and it's cum tree season. We did an episode on the calorie pear tree a while ago, and essentially he went and harvested all the flowers of his local cum tree. Mm-hmm. And he blended it up and turned it into an ice cream.
So has anyone taste tested? Does it taste like cum?
Just him.
Does he think it tastes like cum or just smells like cum?
It smells like cum. The taste is more ice cream flavored. But so many people are sending it through. And just a PSA, please stop sending me videos of the cum tree ice cream. I've definitely seen it by now.
I get lots of cum tree stuff forwarded to me, so I don't watch all of them because a lot of them are the same.
It's funny, like it is cool. Like once you do an episode about these topics, it is amazing how listeners find every aspect to that. It's kind of incredible. So yeah, there is now a cum tree ice cream made by one particular man. Wouldn't recommend it. Just have vanilla, you know? Okay.
Right.
Emo music. I'm ready to be educated. Take me back to school.
All right. Well, so for emo music for me, when you get down to it, to me, I always considered it more of a dude with a guitar singing about being lovesick.
Okay.
And then I think it kind of took on this bigger meaning, which I do think was a lot about the music scene in these different regions that came out of it. And it is more of like a time and a place to me than it was a larger genre because all these bands are touring together.
Right, and there's a reason, obviously, that it came out of America. And you're saying that the setting has a lot to do with what generated this stuff in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start with just emo elders, like who I would consider...
Emo elders is such a great term.
It's a term. Who I would consider like top 5 emo bands to me.
Okay.
Not necessarily like my favorite. So that's not a whole other thing.
Preference.
Emo music to me was a nice like gateway into
Other genres and other
of
music.
And like it was a really meaningful genre to me at that time because it was 7th, 8th, 9th grade.
And that's a time when your feelings are at maximum volume, right?
Yeah, and you're learning about love for the first time and like feeling these things.
It's one of the like saddest things about getting older is you can never reach the peak of that level of like feeling big feelings.
Yeah.
Like it's so annoying how you get numb to that shit.
Yeah, well, and before that, I remember like when I was younger, I listened to a lot of like rap and like hip hop stuff, and I think it made me I had a hard time controlling my emotions as a result of it. Like it riled me up too much. It like made me angry, I think.
Yeah.
And temperamental.
Yeah, right.
And like this music really kind of helped a lot.
Do you think it was like more it was more mellow, but you also let you like process emotions as opposed to just being like feeling like worked up?
Yeah, and
over like an aggressive like big
what
beat.
they're singing about is so much different, and like what the lyrically is so much different.
I love the idea of you being like an angry like man in his room, like listening to like a lot of aggressive hip hop.
Yeah,
this is really good.
So then I think 7th grade, I remember very distinctly that there was this weird like punk kid in one of my classes had a burned CD, and I asked him what it was, and he was like, he got real cagey and was like, "Oh, no one would like this. Like, it's my favorite band, but like you wouldn't get it." And I remember he let me listen to it, and it was Dashboard Confessional.
Okay,
and that was my like first introduction to emo music, and I think to me like that is emo music. It was him with the guitar singing.
Okay,
this is one of their songs.
Oh yeah, this is emo. Yeah. I also just have to say that one particular album cover with him like alone on a beach, looking down forlornly, that is the epitome of what I think of when I think of this era of emo.
Yeah. Another fun thing I realized when putting this together, Aaron Paul's in the music video for that song.
Oh, this is incredible.
Young Aaron Paul on MTV2.
He looks like he was about 12 there. That's really, really good.
Yeah.
I also want to say that thing, and I guess kids are doing it differently now, obviously, but that thing, I remember in sixth form, Rodney Marston handed me his like pack of CDs, like in a wallet. And that was such a fun way of discovery into music, because that kind of defined a lot of my musical taste, because that album, for me, when Rodney handed that over, it had a Nine Inch Nails record, The Fragile, and it had Tool's Anima. And that still today, defined my core musical tastes and the genres that I like. Whereas I feel like you got handed like a very different CD. And I think that shit sends you down completely different paths. And it's different, obviously, because kids are on streaming and it's like, but I think that was a very special thing of getting given an album that was like such a mystery. You couldn't find out everything about them because the internet wasn't as much of a thing.
I mean, that was you're not that much older than me.
Exciting.
We were given CDs.
Yeah. But it was such a definitive thing.
All right. So next was Spill Canvas.
I've never heard of Spill Canvas.
So that's who did our theme song.
Oh, amazing.
So I remember hearing, I think like freshman year of high school, I heard about this from a friend, and he would just play like these house shows around the suburbs. He's from Sioux Falls.
Okay.
But yeah, he would tour around and just do these house shows. And right around this time, I started getting into graphic design.
Okay.
So I ended up designing t-shirts for him.
Oh, get out of town.
That's my foray into a lot of this music was designing shirts for these bands. And like Fall Out Boy was one of the bands that I would design shirts for.
No way.
Yeah, in like my sophomore year graphic design class.
So you were like, so that's really interesting. So you're a fan of this music, and it's kind of like suddenly you're working with some of these musicians and this music that you like.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That informed a lot too, was like seeing these bands from the neighborhood.
Yeah.
They were a little bit older than me usually, but that we'd see at like the VFW or the Teen Center, they'd play shows. Fall Out Boy was one of those that like seeing them come from like watching them play at Tower Records and the record shop down the street and the VFW to then like they're on Jimmy Kimmel and TRL.
Yeah, they're touring these like massive venues in New Zealand at the time.
I think it was informative to just see like, oh, that can happen too.
It's possible
Yeah.
that you can work hard at something and suddenly you will be huge.
Yeah.
And also, breaking out of like a small town.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So Spill Canvas,
Okay.
he was another one.
Thank you, Spill Canvas, for doing our theme song.
The truth is that I've never fallen so hard. I can honestly say
Yeah, man with a guitar.
Yeah.
that I never, ever felt this.
This is all very emotional.
It's so earnest.
Yes.
And it's fun. As a New Zealander, we're notoriously not in touch with our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And as a New Zealander, or maybe it's just me, I can feel myself like crawling up inside myself, being like, this is too earnest.
Yeah.
But beautiful, like amazing.
All right. So then next is Rocky Vodolato.
Oh my God, I know Rocky.
You know Rocky. Rocky, we were lucky enough to have Rocky do our Portland show.
Oh, him and his band were friggin' amazing.
Yes, Suzalo. So he had an album, Makers. Did you have those albums that when you went through a breakup, it became your breakup album?
Some things I can't listen to anymore because it's like straight back in time.
This album was one of those for me.
Oof.
It was my high school breakup album.
Oh God.
So yeah, this is that.
Slow it down. There's a secret place that I know. I could dig a grave out and climb underground.
Oh my God.
All I wanna do is turn around. I'm going down to sleep on the bottom of the ocean.
But are you okay?
Yeah.
You're
Okay. I've gotten past.
Yeah, it was but music was like, while you were listening to that, I was probably listening to Creed or something, just trying to like grapple with your emotions.
Yeah, I think that album and then Appleseed Cast, Two Conversations.
When you had that breakup, what was the context? Were you like in your room, like door shut, like headphones on, like crying? Were you like walking around moodily around the neighborhood? Like, what was the context?
I think my memory of it is more like driving at night, listening to this.
It's so emo.
Yeah.
Driving at night is so emo. Yeah. I love this for you.
All right. So then Owen as number 4.
Okay.
He's done a ton of other projects too, as Mike Kinsella. He did American Football, Captain Jazz.
Okay. Amazing album covers.
Joan of
the
Arc.
art's great.
Yeah. But Owen, to me, it's just Mike with the guitar singing.
It's a guy with the guitar.
Your decisions are laid are
Oh my God. Yeah.
pretty fucked up.
I swear.
Not in a good way. Oh, whose hair? Whose hair? I'll tell you that it told me more of you than you did.
It's a very like emotional, breathy delivery, isn't it? It's very, it's very intense.
And then my last one, which I think may be controversial, this.
Oh,
I think
flightlessbird@gmail.com.
I think I would call Bright Eyes like.
I went to a Bright Eye show with you.
Yeah.
You took me to my first Bright Eye show.
I think he's kind of taken a journey musically throughout his career.
Why would this be controversial? Because it's not, what genre would it be if not emo?
I don't think people love the emo moniker.
Yeah, no, totally. It comes with baggage.
Yeah, and I do think there are some more like indie bands that don't love
like don't
getting
put
called
me
emo.
in this box.
Bright Eyes fans would kind of maybe hold him to a higher standard.
Yeah, and I remember
emo music.
And I remember that show as well. His fans are deeply passionate.
Yeah,
and they will be writing to you.
Elliott Smith too, I think fits the like dude with the guitar singing about his emotions, but to me, for some reason, maybe that's me being snobby about
that's right
music.
Yeah, a bit of snobbery is allowed on the show.
But here's what I mean.
Yours is the first face that I
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think I was blind before I met you. I don't know where I am, I don't know where I've been, but
Yeah, it's a man with a guitar singing about a relationship or a person.
Yeah.
With emotion.
Yeah. Which though, so is like Elliott Smith. I'm sure there was plenty of music prior to me getting into music. I know there is. That was that as well, that I am only not lumping in with this because it was before my generation.
Okay, so
I think the term emo wasn't coined yet.
What you have played, I would not typically in my brain associate with like intense emo. Like for me, emo is what me and Rosa were talking about in New Zealand. It's like, it's literally, it's My Chemical Romance. It's like King Emo and Fall Out Boy and Brendan Urie, what was his band? Panic at the Disco.
Well, okay. Well, so I do think a lot of this music scene was about these different regions that these bands came from.
Right.
Which was what I think was really cool about it was the like community behind this genre. Whatever you're calling it, emo music or pop punk or whatever it is, there was kind of this camaraderie between all these bands and they'd all tour together. And to me, that's where I fell in love with music. That's like where I made a ton of friends within that. That's where I found my like tribe of people.
Yeah.
Was within this music scene.
And I feel that opens up a whole other world as well of like art and other stuff.
So then Illinois, these were the big, to me, the emo bands. Fall Out Boy came from there. You had the Academy is, Plain White Tees, the Audition, the Hush Sound. 504 Plan was one of the lesser known but earlier versions of this music. Like 504 Plan members, one of them ended up joining Panic at the Disco. Another one joined the Academy is.
Yeah, there's a crossover, and
the drummer became like business partners with Pete Wentz and like designed all of his stuff. And was really like all of these bands like were a family. And Spitalfield. So the guy from 504 Plan, like I just saw Spitalfield 2 months ago, and he's playing with Spitalfield on their 20-year reunion tour.
Holy shit!
Yeah, I still talk to a lot of these people. It meant a lot.
And also, that probably says a lot that these people are all still making music and are still, most of them seem friendly and like doing stuff together. Like that's a long time. Like it's longevity.
Yeah, some.
Okay, and amongst some of the explosions.
So yeah, we had 504 Plan. Like I said, a lot of them went on. Fall Out Boy. Like this album, Take It to Your Grave. I remember going to the music video shoot at the Knights of Columbus.
Oh, no way. Really?
For Dead on Arrival.
Well, like what a buzz though as well.
Yeah.
Like that's a real trip. I know that record.
When I was 15, I worked at a Great Clips.
What is that?
It was a haircut place.
Oh, I did not know. Oh, Great Clips. I was like, was that like cutting music videos?
No, I would clean the combs and barbicide.
Amazing.
Sweep.
Oh, that's so cute.
And then do the register.
Yeah.
Check people out.
Was that one of your first jobs?
It was my first job. I needed a permit because I was underage to work there. But next door to it was a record shop.
Yeah, that's where you'd spend the money that you earned.
I'd just take my breaks there and hang out there. And working at that record shop was this guy, Johnny, that he, in I think high school, started a record label called Little League Records, put out the Academy's first record, put out a Gatsby's American Dream record, which is Kirk's band. You talked to John. He's like a big A&R guy now.
Yeah.
within the
I
music
talked to him on
industry.
background for this episode. He was great.
And like I remember him showing me like demos from Panic at the Disco because he ended up going to do A&R at Feel by Ramen, which was like a big record label that a lot of these bands were on, and getting like demos for Panic at the Disco before they had played a show yet.
Did you know how special that was at the time? Were you aware? Or was it just part of your world? Because that seemed, as a fan of music, that would be such a buzz, especially as well when like you're a kid.
I think I had like a weird relationship with it though. When I found this music, I found my community and tribe through the kind of this music scene,
and also you're working with them as well. Like you're making their merch and stuff. So it's kind of like on even ground kind of a thing.
But they were all like slightly older than me, not at my high school. So like I went to high school and I was like kind of a loner at school, but then had this community of friends outside of it.
Yeah, and like way more interesting and like cooler.
But then what started to happen was like those bands started getting bigger and popular within my high school.
You're right.
So then there was this weird thing happening where like
they'd all know.
Panic at the Disco shirts were being worn or like things that I had designed.
And would the kids at school know that you were involved with those groups, or they have no idea?
No, I didn't really.
Yeah, you weren't going around being like, "That's me."
Yeah.
How surreal.
So it was like a weird. It was like the people that I didn't like though too.
Yeah, you're like, this isn't for you. Yeah, like stay away. Like this is. Yeah, that's so fascinating. What's that thing you hear about from some bands, right? Occasionally they'll look out into an audience and just be like, "Oh my God, like those are the fans. Like I'm not making music for you."
Yeah. Well,
in a way, you know?
And if I get down to it, it was probably the people that I was like rejected by friendship wise when I was younger.
Yeah, it's why you're listening to the emo music in the first
I'm going to
place.
go make my own friends and kind of leave this group. But then them finding their way to this thing that was like, mine. Not really, but...
No, but you had that connection to it.
Yeah.
The emotional connection, and then suddenly all these dimwits are just like discovering this like cool new thing.
It was just this like weird...
weird, I get that.
Juxtaposition happening.
Oh, the weirdest juxtaposition.
So we got Plain White Tees, which... Damar's still a really good friend of mine, the drummer from this
Damar's
band.
an incredible drummer. I follow him on Instagram, and he's
such a good drummer.
And a nice human.
They wrote Hey There Delilah, which was like peak emo. Like when we were in San Francisco, there was a guy playing it on the street with a guitar.
Yeah.
Hush Sound, another one that came out of that era. The Audition, Spitalfield. All right, so then we're moving a little outside of the Midwest.
Okay.
You've got Motion City Soundtrack and Hawthorne Heights.
That album cover, The Silence.
And it's like getting a little punkier, a little like screamo music kind of bleeds in a little bit. Like,
okay.
Because even Fall Out Boy had that a bit. Like Pete Wentz came from a screamo band before called Arma Angelus.
Right.
Which there are some older Fall Out Boy tracks where he's yelling.
He's yelling, right.
Yeah. So like Hawthorne Heights is starting to move into that direction. And there's like this rival record label that comes up in Chicago, Victory Records. So you've got Feel by Ramen in Florida, which is Fall Out Boy, The Academy is, Panic at the Disco, Paramore, Hush Sound. And then you have Victory Records, which comes out, which is Hawthorne Heights and Bayside and The Audition, Junior Varsity.
So they've both got great rosters, and they're the two kind of...
Victory's a little more punk. They got Atreyu. Do you know Atreyu?
No.
Yeah. They're a little like heavier, a little cooler.
Okay.
And then Motion City Soundtrack.
I know Motion City Soundtrack.
All right, so then
Here we
New
go.
Jersey had a ton. I almost feel like there was the same thing happening in Chicago and Illinois happening out east, where you've got My Chemical Romance, which this was the record that I knew the most.
Yeah, Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge. I came in New Zealand, Black Parade was the one.
I had to give you your own slide because I knew this was your...
Yeah, for the record, I love this album. I think The Black Parade is just like a masterpiece. Beautiful.
Yeah. And that's a little later. That's 2006. So this is happening. That's when I graduated high school.
Yeah, right.
So that first record is 2004. So that's like right around that same era. You've got Armor for Sleep, which is another band I was like designing t-shirts for at the time. Early November, Saves the Day. And then like you've got this New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts area where you've got Taking Back Sunday, which I feel like is kind of peak emo.
Yeah, they were big in New Zealand.
Yeah.
In my time.
Straylight Run, which was kind of an offshoot of Taking Back Sunday. With Michelle Nolan and her brother, who was in Taking Back Sunday.
Your knowledge of this is encyclopedic, by the way. This is kind of blowing my mind. Stay tuned for more Flightless Bird. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Support for Flightless Bird comes from Aura Frames. Now, are you ready to win your mum over on Mother's Day and cement your reputation as the best gift giver of all time? Because I certainly have. You know how I did that, Rob?
You sent her an Aura frame?
Well, actually, I did this last Mother's Day, but I sent a whole load of new photos to her frame. So she now knows what her favorite son, because I'm definitely a favorite over Rob, is up to.
We've done the same to my mom, but I think maybe this year we'll send her another one because right now our Aura frame, all of the siblings send in, it's all connected to the same one.
That's awesome.
So it's not an Aura frame just with our
kids. With you. Your family specific frame.
Yeah, I think we're going to get her a second one so she can just stick that somewhere. Aura frame has been named the best digital photo frame by Wirecutter, and it's easy to see why. There's unlimited storage. You can add as many photos as you want, videos and funny memes that you find. So simple to set up. You just plug in and share away. And like I said, we share photos across the country so my mom can see our kids grow up.
So honestly, my parents don't read my emails, but they do look at what new photos are appearing on that Aura frame. Aura now has a great deal for Mother's Day. For a limited time, listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off, plus free shipping on their best-selling Carver matte frame. That's auraframes.com, promo code BIRD. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Support for Flightless Bird comes from Quince. Now, you know when a new shirt just becomes your go-to? That's what happened when I picked up a new piece from Quince.
That happens to me a lot now, where if I really like something, I want to wear it a bunch. And if I really, really like something, I'll end up buying a second one.
Multiple copies?
That way I can just keep it in case it gets worn out because I'm wearing it too much. And that's what's happened with Quint's cashmere sweater that I bought from there. It has become a staple to my wardrobe, and I've needed another one. And I'm worried about
I love this.
If it gets worn and then I can't find it. So I just buy another one.
It's really, really good. The best part about it all as well, that everything at Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than what you'd find at similar brands. So when you buy 20 versions of the same thing, it's still good value. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middleman, Quince also gives you the luxury pieces without those crazy markups. And they also work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I'm going to the Magic Castle for the first time very soon, and I have to wear a suit. And I had a suit, but I didn't have a dress shirt anywhere. Quince, they sorted me out. Love it.
Elevate your closet with Quince. Go to quince.com/bird for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/bird to get free shipping and 365-day returns.
Quince.com/bird.
And then it's Tall's Lions. So Dan, the singer of this band, he's now like a massive producer. He did all the Olivia Rodrigo stuff, the Chappell Roan stuff.
Right, does like big pop stuff. Big records.
Killing it now.
Yeah, it's funny, like these people who are in bands, like Lord's first producer who produced her big record, Joel Little, he was in like this pop punk band.
Yeah.
And then he retired that and has just become this producer now that, you know, he's worked with everyone from like Taylor Swift to Ella. And it's these people, right? They know how to make a pop song, and then they go behind the scenes.
I think he won Grammy, or Producer of the Year. He won a Grammy this last year for it.
Yeah.
And then we got the Receiving End Sirens, which then Casey left that band to start the Deer Hunter.
Oh my God, that is such a early 2000s album cover.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
This presentation is, I love this.
All right, so then we're going to go Pacific Northwest, because there is all these bands would tour with each other, and like I think you would come into these markets and they like I saw Gatsby's American Dream at that same VFW that Fall Out Boy was playing at. So like you just watched the shows that were coming through and really just go to any of the ones. It was, yeah.
Have you seen most of these bands live? I feel like you probably have.
I've seen probably almost all of these bands
multiple
live.
times. Yeah.
Yeah. So, got Gatsby's American Dream, which is Kirk from Real Dawn, who played our Seattle show.
Yeah, another great band.
And we got Rudy from Susalo, the drummer.
Oh my God, this is like band. Inception level.
Yeah. And then you've got Forgive Durden, which is another Seattle band. Days Away, which they were another Fueled by Ramen band. Acceptance. And then we go to like LA, Arizona, Nevada area.
I know so we 3 out of 4.
Say Anything. So Max Bemis is the singer of this band. They were cooler emo, like intellectual emo, I think I remember.
Okay, another term I haven't heard before. I love this.
In high school. Like they were like the cool emo band.
Okay.
That like
a bit more heady, a bit more
heady. Yeah. There was just something different, a little edgier. Their one song was like spoken word, him talking about like all these cliques that he didn't want to be a part of. And
right.
Yeah. Then we got Pierce the Veil.
I spoke for this episode. I spoke to Vic for Pierce the Veil. We'll play that a little bit later.
Vic took me to my first emo night like 2-3 months ago.
This is all folding in itself. Yeah, I've got audio from Emo Night to play as well. This is insane.
Panic at the Disco.
Coming out of there. Know them well.
And then Jimmy Eat World.
Also huge in New Zealand. I feel like that's so interesting. So these bands all made it to New Zealand. And were all big.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's just an LA thing.
I mean, a lot of these people, especially when we come and they come out and do our show, like a lot of them have toured in New Zealand.
Yeah, they've all been
or
there.
Australia. Yeah, I feel like there's some shared DNA of New Zealand to this emo world.
Oh, I get like New Zealand absolutely was on board with the emo scene, like in a very big way.
Just like sad boy music that everyone could relate to.
Yeah, we're just trying to relate to our emotions, you know? We're desperately trying, and emo music helped us.
I reached out to a lot of these people that I still know in this world.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of get their take on how they feel about the term emo. So maybe after we get through...
Oh, I love this. And you were basically like, how do you feel about being called emo?
It was more like, do you think Say Anything was an emo band?
Oh, I love this. Okay. Let's come back to that at the end.
Yeah.
This is good. This is good. Some of them probably just like blocked you straight away. We don't want to talk about it.
I got good responses from everyone, but there was like 3 clear buckets that people landed in.
So I don't know, I found a few sort of interesting things about this topic, and I thought maybe something slightly entertaining to do would be when I was back in New Zealand first starting in journalism, I was a light entertainment reporter. And just as I was thinking about this topic, I'd completely forgotten, but I interviewed Fall Out Boy and a few, I think maybe them a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe just to humiliate myself, we could maybe watch some of those clips, and it kind of reflects how I thought about emo music at the time, and maybe how, I don't know, I find it funny looking back at myself because I don't even remember really doing it.
I find it funny looking back at
It's funny. And, you know, I had a certain voice, and I just saw some context. Like, I was like this late night, I was trying to be edgy and like try and be like, put a twist on things. This stuff's hard to look back at for me, but I thought we could all like laugh at it together. Okay, let's look first at my early stories with Fall Out Boy.
But first, Fall Out Boy. The American band played a sold-out show in Auckland last night, this despite moving to a bigger venue to cope with massive ticket sales. David Farrier met with the band to find out what all the fuss was about.
As people, Fall Out Boy are quite small. The tallest is about 5'9", but as a band they're massive. Their new album, Infinity on High, hitting #1 in America, and their single debuting at #1 here.
Can I tell you what's really surreal? Is surreal like if being from America, is that a gold record here is 7,000 records sold. And we're playing a show to 4,000 people. So we're playing to half a gold record.
They formed 6 years ago, and in that short time they've started their own record label, launching the career of various bands, including Panic at the Disco.
In this place.
Panic was a weird one because like I never wanted a record label, and then these little dudes came onto our website and they were like, blah blah blah, something about me sucking or something. And I was like, and they were like, check out our band, and I was like, I'm gonna go check this band out, and I'm gonna come back here and tell them how shitty their band is. And I went and listened to it, and I was like, damn, this thing's good. I was like, I gotta sign them. And then I was like, wait, I don't have a record label.
So Pete made one, signed Panic, and then decided to go a step further, which included starting his own clothing line and film production company.
Is there a master plan going on there?
No, I mean, no real master plan. It's kind of like when you're a band of our size, at some point you have all these like corporations that want to like back you, or you need to interact with them on some level, and it's like, why not just be the corporation, kind of, you know what I'm saying? Because then at night you can go to sleep with what your ideals are. Like I know where, like with the clothing line, like I know what labor we use. I know we don't use sweatshops.
You can't really argue with that logic, and not many people do. Heck, they even got Jay-Z on board to intro their new CD. And at a meet and greet session in Auckland, their fans got a chance to meet them.
Someone gave me this hat in line, and I'm so stoked.
And sometimes hugged them until security stepped in.
No hug! Nope, there you go. Yeah.
They do have an obsessive fan base, which is why they don't Google themselves, especially after a photograph is taken with one of their many awards.
Me and Patrick were holding it, and like we were like just joking around, so we like both were kissing the award, and someone photoshopped the award out, and me and Patrick are kissing each other.
I've seen that thing. Yeah,
it's real weird.
They did like a really good job in the Photoshop where it looks like these dudes are like tonguing each other.
There was no tonguing in our interview, but at one point they did steal and play with my oddly shaped microphone, all part of the fun in their first ever trip down under. David Farrier, 3 News.
That was one of my big
Farrier,
hit stories.
I do remember Pete was kind of an anomaly within, because he was like the front man of the band, but he wasn't the lead singer.
Yeah, it was an odd thing, right? Patrick Stump was a singer.
Yeah, and he was
like the sexy,
bassist.
the sexy bassist, which is very rare in a band.
I think they would write together.
That was my moment with Fall Out Boy. The other story I wanted to play was me, I guess, trying to take the piss out of the emo scene in New Zealand a little bit. Yeah, this is pretty cringe to look back on.
Well, if there's one thing you can guarantee about music, it's music fans and inevitably music fashion fads. Take Marilyn Manson. He inspired a whole new breed of goths to don white makeup and fishnet shirts. Now there's the emo or emo kid, and as David Farrier reports, they seem to be everywhere.
The Lost Prophets, just one of many bands at the forefront of today's modern emo movement, begging the question, what is an emo?
The stereotype of emo kids nowadays seems to be particularly guys with jet black hair that's straight, long fringe, tight black stovepipe jeans, Chuck Taylor, or just basketball sneakers, studded belts, and just kind of really moody looking, lip piercings, that sort of thing.
20 years ago, emo was shorthand for emotive hardcore, a brand of punk. Now it's come to mean emotional. If you're an emo, you're more likely to hug your friend and give them a high five. And as for crying, not a problem. These days, emo is more commonly tied to fashion than to music, and is still a constantly changing beast.
Basically, there's just been mutation after mutation in the sort of emo genre, and people are looking at emo in the present day as being something that's brand new, when Rites of Spring started doing their thing in 1985 in Washington DC. So
now emos come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and today on Auckland's busy Queen Street I'm going to try and find some. Now I'd just like to reiterate that I'm talking about emos, not emus. This is an emu. A flightless yet graceful creature, the second largest bird on the planet. They reach heights of 1.5 to 2 meters and weigh around 60 kilos. This, though, is an Auckland emo. You can tell because of the long fringe and tight pants. They're not always alone, often moving in packs, and can be identified by their Chuck Taylor shoes. As to what they listen to on their iPods, it's a point of contention for the emos and the bands themselves.
Bands such as My Chemical Romance, AFI, even New Zealand's The Bleeders have been associated with emo, and a lot of people who are part of the underground punk scene, as you know, emo comes out of the underground punk scene, they say, well, you know, those bands aren't emo.
But even if the line is blurred, just remember this. Emo, emu. David Farrier, 3 News.
I was going to say, at the time, I thought that was the funniest thing ever.
You coming out of the bushes was pretty...
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to do like an Attenborough, you know, like a nature documentary, but like focusing on the emo, you know?
What is an emo? That was a good... I like I mean, maybe that's just how I sounded the last half hour, but someone trying to speak technically on like just the stereotypes of like, I mean, the long hair swoop and the lip ring and the like guy liner was definitely a thing. But to me, like, it was emo music was not style exactly. Like, it was a lot of band t-shirts.
It's funny because I feel like that's maybe where we mainly differ. Like, my association was more the fashion, because all those bands that you did this presentation on, I didn't see one fringe in there at all. And that obviously came like later, I assume, as it morphed into the stuff that was big in New Zealand at the time, or the stuff that I took notice of in New Zealand. And he ended up filing these deranged reports on the 10:30 news. And we got a lot of like really angry feedback from emos about that, being like, that's so offensive.
From emus?
From emos. Yeah, emos. I just thought I was so funny making that comparison. I thought this was the funniest thing I've ever done.
Serious you were doing it too.
Oh, deeply. Yeah, always. Yeah, deeply serious. deeply deadpan. Okay, I think maybe we should play my encounter with Emo Night.
Yes.
Which is a night you have been to. But essentially, I started, as I was thinking about this topic, I started seeing a lot of ads. You know, like when you notice something, suddenly you see ads everywhere for it. And I thought I need to go to Emo Night. And I'm just going to read from their website to kind of explain what it is. Since they threw their first party in East LA, Morgan and T.J. and a dedicated crew of regular attendees built Emo Night into a phenomenon. From what I could tell, they basically just play hit emo songs and throw a party. They're just DJing like emo hits. It's not EDM, it's like big emo tracks.
Well, so Vic was coming into town a couple months ago and said he was DJing Emo Night.
Yeah.
And was like, you should come hang out.
Right.
I was letting him crash at our house, and I was like, all right, I guess.
Just like the old days.
I'll come to this. And yeah, I think they bring in, this was like some Emo Night festival. So they ended up having a lot of bands playing too.
Well, so Emo Night, just like, you'll sort of hear in the documentary, but it's huge. It's like a room packed full of like young music lovers. It's like a cool place to be.
I think it's a new generation of it too, because everyone is young.
And Emo Night played at Coachella.
Yeah.
Like these DJs played there. So just to get an idea of like the scale of what this thing was.
DeMar recently went and DJ'd. Like really they're just picking their favorite songs from that era of music. And then they're
throwing a party.
Vic made me come up on, it was a double-decker bus with the DJ booth on top of.
He dragged you up?
Yeah, he dragged me up with him.
I love this for you so much.
Which was my nightmare.
Yeah, you're not a big look at me human.
So it's like me just trying to like hide behind him as he's playing a Spotify playlist.
That is, and how long you just had to like?
It was like 30, 45 minutes.
Oh, Rob, you'd be in your own version of hell. You just like want to hide.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. This was my experience at my very first Emo Night.
Hello, assholes. How you guys doing? Okay, all right. We're playing music, right? Okay. No. All right, here we go.
You've just come off stage. It's my first ever Emo Night. It was huge out there. It was big. Is that a typical night? Is it untypical? What is this?
It was really good out there, but this is like kind of a slower one, actually. Yeah.
Rewinding back to the beginning of all this, for someone that has no concept of emo or the genre or its place, where it sprung from in America, can you talk a little bit to that? Like where emo came from?
There's like a joke on the internet. It's like a real emo copy pasta. I don't know if you've seen that floating around, but it's like this copy pasta that's like real emo only consists of the DC emotional hardcore scene of the and the late 90s screamo scene.
We're never going to get it right. We're never going to like pinpoint it.
You need to pinpoint it right now.
I know. Well, but it came from hardcore. It came from punk. It's just like something that evolved into what it is now. And like some of the songs that you heard tonight, like those are, I wouldn't call them emo songs, but they are adjacent in the fact that it kind of all came out around the same time. And I think that that's an important thing that we like, all these like emo purists forget, is that it was such a community. And like, just because an artist didn't sound like them.
When you started this, did you still think it would be continuing on in 2025 at this point? Did you have a concept of that?
No, not at all. So this is year 11. Like we never...
That's ridiculous.
It's crazy. We made a rule after our anniversary show in December, year 10, that we were just not going to talk about the years anymore. Because then people might be like, I don't want to go to that like old person party. But yeah, dude, no, not at all in the slightest. I remember there was a conversation that we had where we were like, wouldn't it be cool if like we could pay our rent with Emo Night? And now it's like our full-time job.
What do you put that down to? Because like from my perspective, I'm from New Zealand. I feel like rewind to the year 2000 and emo was massive in my country. And I assumed it was going to be a short-term thing. Here we are in 2025, and there is a night where you have people coming out. I mean, there's kids out there. They're not. I mean, I'm 42, which is crazy to say. There are kids out there. It's not an old person's game.
They're like kids that DM us. They're like, I can't wait till I turn, some parties we have that are 18 plus, but here, it's 21. So like people are like dying to turn 21 to come here. It's like the first thing that they're going to do once they become legal drinking age. And I think that is crazy. That's a crazy thing to me.
What is it about this genre that has people sticking around for it? Is there something I've missed that has kept people on to this?
I don't know. There's something about this genre that people just really latch onto, and they really fight for it. And, there's a lot of debates about the word emo. I can't think of another genre that people fight about as much as emo. And I think that is because they care about it. Everybody has like whatever they've determined emo is to them, and if your idea of emo is different, like you're wrong, and people will argue with you about it till they're blue in the face. People just really care about this. I am one of those people that really cares about this. It was kind of like the last moment where like there was a real music scene.
Before like we all became permanently online, emo was the thing.
You had to go physically find the people that you felt, we're already dealing with people that for the most part are teenagers. They feel uncomfortable. They're learning to grow up, and we didn't have all the answers at our fingertips. So you had to go out and physically find your people. And I think this music and the adjacent music really helped guide those people in the direction that they kind of choose for the rest of their lives. And that's why I think that, we have everybody from 21 to you're 42,
42, you don't need to repeat it.
So it's like, I think that's why I think it's the last genre before the internet. I think there's a lot of reasons why it is big. I can't ever put my finger on it, but I do think that it is here to stay. People say like, oh, it's just a phase. Like, I don't know, 25, 30 years doesn't really seem like a phase.
Phase is like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. So I'm like, I think it's here.
We had this idea for this party at the exact right time in Los Angeles. Like, I was 24 when we started this. I'm now 35. And there were a lot of people like myself who had moved here, and they were kind of getting their start in the creative industry. And they were the people that were kind of the artsy weirdos in their high schools. And this music is kind of the thing that, like, I think everybody turned to when they didn't feel like they fit in their high school. And then all those people grew up and they were still artsy weirdos, and then they moved to LA and they started working in film, and they started working in, like, you know, different genres of music, but they all had this moment that tied everybody together, whether you're from Ohio or you're from Utah or you're from Arizona. I think everybody had a similar sort of adolescent experience with this music, where it felt like a safe place. And it wasn't just through the songs themselves, it was like the whole scene around it, like going to shows and connecting with people and all of it.
Has there been like a particularly surreal moment where there's been a certain person that's turned up, or a certain night where you've just gone like, oh, that was surprising?
Dude, I mean, when we got to play Coachella, that was wild. That was crazy. We got to play Coachella in 2022, and they put us on the dance tent, like in the Sahara dance tent at 6 p.m., which is like the best slot.
That's a great spot.
Yeah. And it was just fucking crazy. And we got to bring all of our heroes with us. So we got to bring like Jacoby from Papa Roach and the guys from 303 and Hello Goodbye and Plain White Tees and all these like people who have never been considered or even thought about playing Coachella. They got to play with us, and like that feeling of being like the ones who are kicking down the door of like entering spaces that traditionally didn't allow sort of like our music scene, that felt good.
And you know, like, this is all extra for me, you know, like every day I'm like, should not be here at all. So this is all great. The whole thing is really surreal, right? And the fact that like I think we did a net positive for music and culture in general. What spawns out of it, I have no idea, but like we really do it because we're like, we really love this stuff, we really love the people. This is like kind of all I know. So for me, this is great. This is the top moment in my life, what we're doing right now with you.
Stay tuned for more Flightless Bird. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Flightless Bird is supported by Square. And this is something that I can get behind incredibly boldly, because when we were doing our live shows for Flightless Bird, suddenly realized to sell t-shirts to people after the show, we had to take payment.
Our first show in Seattle, we did not have a Square Reader, and we had to either take cash or people had to send you money directly, which was not the best way to sell merch at a live show.
No, and I didn't realize, in my mind, I was like, people can just scan a QR code or something and pay me that way, or they can give us cash. I talked to a friend that was in a band that does merch, and they were like, no, you need a Square Reader. I bought a Square Reader. We took it to our other shows. It's incredible.
Yes.
It's easy for us and it's easier for the customer because it's so quick. If they see a shirt, click a button, done.
Yeah, I was able to program it all ahead of time. So we just handed it over to the merch seller and it goes directly into our account. And you can run a little report at the end of the night, and it made everything so much easier for the live shows.
And just quick for the customer as well. So yeah, I love Square. It's made our live touring and getting shirts to you guys so much easier.
It works seamlessly for all types of businesses, whether it's a small boutique, a pop-up art gallery, a weekend market stall, a food truck, or even a yoga studio. Square adjusts to whatever you need, and you can sell in person or online from one location or several. It's built to move with you and adapt as your business grows.
And also, since we started using it, wherever I'm paying for stuff now, I just notice it's all Square.
Yeah.
Like, I understand it now. It's everywhere. Square keeps up so you don't have to slow down. Get everything you need to run and grow your business without any long-term commitments. And why wait? Right now, you can get up to $200 off Square hardware at square.com/go/bird.
That's SQUARE.com/GO/bird. Run your business smarter with Square. Get started today.
Flightless Bird is sponsored by BetterHelp. Now, I don't know what your experience was growing up in America, but I know growing up in New Zealand, Rob, the thought of doing therapy, it was almost like when online dating first happened, everyone was repulsed by it.
Mm-hmm.
Now everyone is like, this is amazing. Same thing with therapy. It used to be like this really
stigmatized
thing.
Yeah, that you were ashamed of doing. And now it's almost you're ashamed if you're not in touch with your feelings and talking to someone about it.
It's wild how much has changed in society, and I think we're headed in a much better direction. Mental health awareness is growing, but there is still progress to be made. 26% of Americans who participated in a recent survey say they've avoided seeking mental health support due to fear of judgment, so that stigma still does exist. Now, BetterHelp has over 10 years of experience matching people with the right therapist from their diverse network of more than 30,000 licensed therapists with a wide range of specialties. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide.
And the nice thing is you can easily switch therapists at any time if it's not the right fit at no extra costs.
I think that can be the pressure of therapy as well as like, I am stuck with this person that I don't get on with, because that match thing is really important.
Yeah, it's really important to have a therapist that you can feel comfortable talking to.
Basically, we're all better with help. So visit betterhelp.com/bird to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/bird.
I think they do touch on something that is kind of important in this whole thing, and is just the nostalgia factor of this generation.
We are riding nostalgia pretty hard.
Yeah.
And it sells tickets and people want that feeling.
Well, and I remember like part of the scene at that era was like Sidekick phones.
What is that?
It was like one of those first smartphones. They were like BlackBerry and you had Sidekicks. And Sidekicks were like what the kids had, and it would like flip open and you had a keyboard and like you weren't really quite at this plugged in age of technology yet, but it was kind of there.
Yeah, right.
You had MySpace and Pure Volume.
What is Pure Volume? I know MySpace. I had a MySpace page.
Pure Volume was like a music website.
Right.
And they would have the like top bands. It was kind of like Spotify at that time. But I remember the charts being like a big thing. You'd get like featured on Pure Volume and you'd see these bands kind of.
And wait, just also jumping to MySpace, is my memory correct that the thing with MySpace is you would have like top songs on there? Or is that my imagination?
They had music pages. And I think they had players.
So it's where you would go to like follow music, right? Like MySpace was the big place.
It was Facebook before Facebook. You had MySpace friends. And I think to me that was like finally bridging this gap of like connecting to these artists. You were messaging and commenting with them. And
well, when we did the Tegan and Sarah episode, they talked about MySpace, like how they engage with the fan base over that.
That's how I got a lot of like work designing shirts, was just like
MySpace.
I'd hit up I'd message them on MySpace and be like, can I design?
Wish both of our MySpace pages were still there preserved, just to see what we were saying and what our photos were.
Yeah.
There was like a specific way you take a photo, like a selfie on MySpace at the time, or maybe it wasn't even a selfie, just like it was a style that you had.
Very low res, I'm sure, at this point.
I mean, I'm glad my MySpace isn't there. My God. I really like them. Like the main thing I found so surreal, and I'm curious how it works with licensing, is they were just there playing these giant songs.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't their music. And like DJs do this, but it was just, I've never been to an event where there's just full songs being played and people, it was like, I remember being in the audience at one point and just being like, oh, it is like, if I close my eyes, I would just assume that Fall Out Boy is on stage playing right now. And that is why people are going this crazy. But no, it was just that track being played.
Yeah, I wonder if they're like remixing it enough that it becomes okay.
There was no remixing going on. It was wild.
So Nick, that did our theme song, told me that Morgan and TJ specifically have helped him kind of come to terms with emo and like what it is and embracing it.
Oh, right. Not being
ashamed of it. And I think everyone is so far beyond.
No, and it's that nostalgia thing. And it's that, but it's also like the other surprising thing with Emo Night, it was like I don't know how to describe it as an old man, but like they were clearly cool kids there. They loved it. It wasn't anything embarrassing about it. These were like the coolest looking people I've ever seen in my life. And I felt so out of place. And it wasn't like old people there. It was like kids. And it's like, oh no, this is cool now.
It's really interesting that it's finding the next generation.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I went to see Fall Out Boy for the first time in 15 years when they did a stadium show a year or two ago. And like, it was a packed stadium and it was a lot of young people.
So I had the same experience. These friends of mine, Youth Code, they opened for My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
They played at that giant, where Beyonce is right now, that giant SoFi Stadium, where they have the monster truck stuff.
Yeah.
So I went to see them play, and so I stayed for My Chemical Romance because I love My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
But they played 5 nights in that place.
Jeez.
And it was packed, and they were kids. And I was like, thinking back on this taking the piss report I filed for the news, like trying to be edgy and be like, emo isn't cool. It's like so silly. And I'm standing there as this like old man, and like all these kids are there loving it. They're not being ironic. They're just appreciating the music. And that was kind of amazing. I think nu metal to a degree is having a similar kind of like revisiting by kids. Like kids are liking Korn, not like ironically, but genuinely loving it. It's a trip.
Yeah, it's just like, it was funny to me to like see them playing this song that I remember from 20 years ago.
And I guess it's like everything comes around again, right? It's like your fashion, you're wearing what your parents once wore and you think it's like a cool thing. It's like, no, they've been there and done that.
And I wonder how much of this is just us getting old, and that's what every generation, because it's not like
there's that as well.
Led Zeppelin was unique to just the generation that listened to them when they came out.
Yeah, oh no, it's definitely us getting older as well. What I love, I don't know, I just think it's great that this stuff still exists, and I love that it's almost bigger than it was back when it happened the first time, it feels like. Certainly with my chem, 5 nights at that venue, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, did all this start happening like right after COVID?
Actually, maybe this is a good time. So you hooked me up with Vic from Pierce the Veil. When I was researching this, you were like, you should just talk to him because he knows emo inside and out. And I feel like he has good insight into what we're seeing with all this stuff being back again.
My name is Vic Fuentes, and I sing for a band called Pierce the Veil. And I guess we're emo.
I'm wondering if you have any thoughts and opinions on kind of the origin of this genre and what it means to be emo here in 2025.
I've lived through all of it, and I was in all of it. And I think I may have actually missed the very inception of it, which was not really at all what you see now. With bands that were what I first saw that were considered emo was guys wearing like sweaters and kind of almost like mod looking guys playing kind of aggressive music that had clean emotional parts and then explosive big parts, but you got this guy that looks like, he's got a sweater and he's got his hair all nice, but they go freaking crazy on stage, and it was such a rad combination. And then that developed into like the Warped Tour, the Vans Warped Tour. So, it just morphed into different things. It started becoming this totally unique like genre that had its own fashion, like everyone dressed a certain way, and straightened hair, tight girl pants, like very androgynous, but more in a gothy way rather than like a Bowie type of way. It's like it had its own, look, and that is sort of, it's developed into what a 2025 is sort of looking back of young kids wanting to embrace what they think emo was. They see these pictures of these kids and they're kind of, I don't know, I guess reliving that now in a way. I did it. I had my hair straightened. I had the tightest jeans you could find, which had to be girl jeans because guy jeans didn't exist that were tight back then.
Yeah.
So you had to shop in the women's section. And it was a funny story. One time I went on a date with this girl, and when I opened the door, we were both wearing the same exact outfit, the same shirt.
It must be kind of surreal for you and the band to look out into that crowd, because you typically, I imagine you're getting fans that are
you've got fans that were there from the beginning that are probably like our age, and then you've probably got kids there as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's a totally new generation that has picked up and embraced the genre and sort of, I don't know, made it new and made it like relabeled it in a way, because we didn't used to call what we do emo. Like that was when we were playing, that was actually like an insult. When people called us an emo band, that was like calling you whiny or, like just like, it was like it was derogatory back then. And now it has sort of solidified itself into like a proud genre name. You see big pop stars or like hip hop artists who are like old emo kids who grew up in that world, like and we see it pop up all the time. And I've been able to connect with a lot of these artists who are like, listen to our band when they were kids, and now they're in a totally different world, but they take that emo, root world of, that emotional music and they use it in their music now. And it's definitely stood the test of time in a crazy way, and it got bigger, which is even crazier. What music were you into at this time?
So I grew up in an extremely Christian house. So I didn't have music until I was 16, really. I was a bit of Britpop. There was a bit of like Oasis and Blur that was big in New Zealand, but generally no music. And then a friend handed me like a CD wallet, and it had like Tool, Nine Inch Nails, Slayer, more metal, industrial kind of orientated stuff. And so I went heavy into sort of industrial, probably metal was my thing for a long time.
Same. I think somebody handed me this same booklet. Like it was like Tool.
Rodney, you met Rodney as well.
That Anima record or whatever.
It was Anima and the Fragile from Nine Inch Nails. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Pantera and like like Vulgar Display of Power was like. And then
it's funny, you think you're unique, right, in your musical taste at that age, and then you talk to people later and you're like, oh no, we all grow up in that exact same bubble.
Yeah, and I had the same like hatred for types of genres, because you're like I remember I hated pop punk when I was a kid because I only liked like darker punk stuff, you know, like I loved like Pennywise and Lagwagon, but I hated like Simple Plan and stuff like that, like it was like.
Well, it's also you're figuring out who you are, and you don't really have a lot of ways to define yourself, so it comes down to what you're interested in. That's such a huge part of your personality, right?
Right. Yeah. No, it is. I mean, and that's a great part about it. I love that. You know.
Well, yeah, you're figuring out who you are, and music can help you do that. This external thing, which I think is great.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, going back to like the dark emotional stuff, it was hitting like our fans in such. We were hitting at a time when I don't know what was happening with like teenage like kids, but like depression was like going crazy at that time. And I don't know if it's still quite as bad as it was, but we would do meet and greets, and like kids would just tell us these stories and pour their hearts out, and like they would even like give us their razors like that they were using to like, and they would be like, hey, I'm never going to use this again. Like, here you go. And that was like too much for us to handle.
I think it's too much for anyone to handle, to have volume of intensity coming at you, and engaging in those conversations is so much. Yeah.
And I'm sure it's the same with a ton of genres, metal or whatever it may be. But it's, you're just hitting people at a time that's so confusing and hard, and music is just so helpful for them.
I've heard about this big club night in Los Angeles, but it tours all around the place. Emo Night.
Yeah.
I'm curious what your take is on that, because I'm going to go, and I understand it's basically people DJing massive emo hits and just getting a room moving.
I've supported since day one because they did something that I wanted America to do for, I guess, like at least 10 years because when we first started touring in the UK, we would go to a club or a bar after the show and they would be playing Blink-182 and everyone would be dancing to punk music. And they did it for years. They did it the whole time they were doing this. And I thought it was so cool. And because in America, the only music they played at clubs was dance music and hip hop. And the club scene was,
very specific
button up shirts and slick hair. And like, it was not like anything that we related to. So the club scene in the UK was like punk kids, probably had something to do with the drinking age being like 18, but anyways, it was just like kids dancing around, having fun to like their favorite music and to rock music specifically and pop punk. And it was just, I loved it so much. I thought it was amazing and no one did it in America. And finally, Emo Night figured out a way to do it in an effective, big way. And it just grew. Morgan and TJ, the guys that started it, that run it, they started it in a way that it was just so no rules, punk rock. Like I don't know how they were even getting away with like doing the shows that they were doing, like without like the police shutting them down. It felt to me like what would have felt like to be in those clubs in like the 80s, like, the Studio 54s and like those like underground clubs that got really popular. And also they support my nonprofit where we they donate $1 of every ticket to my nonprofit, Living the Dream Foundation.
Vic is the best.
The loveliest human I've talked to in a long time.
Yeah.
He was absolutely lovely. He just recently they had a new child.
Yep.
Really cool.
Their second kid, but he's also doing a massive tour. They're doing 3 nights at the Forum in LA that have sold out, which is 18,000 people each night.
So that, again, huge.
Yeah.
And I think what he said, it's something you've talked about as well, of this particular music did just connect with a certain generation. Maybe it's doing that all over again. The stuff that makes me grimace about it, about how earnest it is, that also like does connect.
Yeah, it's so evergreen too.
Yeah.
Do you know what Warped Tour is?
I'd heard of it, but had no idea what it was. I thought Warped was like a skating, like a Vans.
No, it was a big
something
like emo punk festival. I remember I was selling merch at 2005, and there was this I think it was a MySpace minivan stage, which is this pink van that they converted into a stage, and Paramore played it.
Oh my God, little Paramore.
To like 15 people, and then our merch table was right there, and we were right next to their merch table.
That's friggin' surreal. It's like emo Coachella, kind of.
Yeah. And it was all over the country. I do remember, though, it being like a really grueling tour for bands to do if you weren't on a bus. I'd have friends that would try to do that.
Just driving around.
And it's driving through the night for like a call time the next morning in the next city. And like, unless you had a driver, it was a beatdown to do.
Just really quickly, I forgot I put this in my notes. A listener, I can't remember who it was, emailed a playlist called the 2000s Indie Scene. And the subject line was just, "Is this Rob?" And I'm just going to show you the photo because I do think that could be an emo version of you.
Yeah, that's Bright. Right? That's Connor Oberst, though, from Bright Eyes.
I have no idea who that is. Who
from
is it?
Bright Eyes.
He looks like you.
I mean, I guess. They asked if it was me.
Yeah. And I said, yes, that is Rob. I had no idea who it was. I just thought, yeah, it does look a lot like you.
Well, speaking of playlists, we did make a playlist for this episode that we kind of dumped a song from all of these bands that we've been rambling off. So go into the show notes and you can find a link to this playlist.
It'll be like you're being guided into the world of emo via Rob's taste. It'll be a journey. And you come out the other side knowing everything you need to know about emo. The other thing that jumped out to me about this topic, and I thought it was amazing, was this giant fight in Mexico City between emos and punks.
I don't know.
Had you heard about this?
No.
Okay, this blows my mind. So this is from the incredibly great and always accurate information source, Wikipedia.com.
Your favorite source for news?
My favorite source for news. No, it is actually kind of amazing. So emos versus punks, that's what we call the phenomenon now, were multiple confrontations that occurred in 2008 in Mexico City between emos and anti-emo groups, in brackets, mainly punks. So, like in New Zealand, the emo movement got really big in Mexico in the early 2000s. And yeah, in this one year in particular, in 2008, there was just a massive standoff. It was in March where the big one happened. A group of emos was attacked in the capital, alleging that the emos were attempting to expand
their territories
and take over more zones in Mexico City. Anti-emo groups of punks organized a confrontation at the traffic circle on March 16th, 2008 via social media. Police partially controlled the mob. But the reason this whole thing settled down is that members of the Hare Krishna movement were on a little, they're banging their instruments and walking through, and they neutralized the fight.
Wow.
Which is one of the best facts I've ever learned. The idea of emos and punks like fighting and then being disbanded by... Not by the cops, but by Hare Krishnas. So this is a clip from Mexican TV that played in 2008. It captures the chaos.
Estaban listos con cinturón en mano. De pronto, este joven emo da el primer cinturonazo.
Nosotros estamos en contra de los emos. Somos entre ponquetos, darquetos, emos.
¿Y por qué están atacando?
Porque están copiando nuestros estilos.
Y es apenas cuando la policía reacciona. Eran aproximadamente 150 elementos de la Secretaría de Seguridad Pública. De un lado estaban los granaderos protegiendo a los emos, mientras la policía auxiliar hacía lo mismo, pero con los punk y dark. De pronto, como si fuera una broma o una película surrealista, se escucharon cantos y música que salían del metro Insurgentes. Era un grupo de Hare Krishna y aunque no lo crea, ellos dispersaron la tensión. Fueron 5 horas de gritos y empujones. El saldo afortunadamente fue blanco. Ote del Pino, Fuerza Informativa Azteca.
Yeah, that was their version of my new sign-off. So look, key details there. Bunch of emos and punks fighting, and you heard the ting-tanging-tonging of the Hare Krishnas.
Yeah, dancing their way through.
Dancing their way through. And that ended the entire thing, which blows my mind.
Yeah, I guess I do remember that being a little bit of a thing. It not in mass.
Yeah,
like
but
that,
being
though.
those different defenders of those genres clashing.
Yeah. Like, I feel like my high school at that time, there were like 10 emo kids.
Really? Yeah, it was minimal.
Yeah.
I wish the goths would come back. There's small pockets of gothdom around the place, but I feel like it definitely hasn't come back in the way that the emo scene has come back.
Yeah, there were more emo kids than goth kids at my high school for sure. There was like 3 goth kids.
Goths were the true outsiders.
Yeah.
Like, emos were mainstream.
Well, I feel like the goths maybe had a reputation of being a little angrier.
Yeah.
And the emo kids were just like quiet and sad.
So I went through a very short-lived phase of being into a lot of goth music, and I went through about maybe a week of school of painting my fingernails black.
I can see that.
And that was my goth phase. I'll see if I can find a photo. There might have been some black eyeliner as well at some point, but I can just say it did not suit me at all.
What was the goth music? Was that like AFI and?
No, it would have been like the Downward Spiral. It would have been some like Marilyn Manson records, like fairly big bands that were considered goth.
Yeah,
I didn't get into like Christian Death and all that stuff. But yeah, I think goth is probably more my bit of Ministry thrown in there, that kind of thing.
I talked about this a little bit earlier. I feel like emo music was kind of a gateway into all these different genres. Because I remember making friends with this Japanese kid that loved Rancid. And liked listening to them. And then it eventually, that's how I found Mars Volta was someone within that, one of the dudes within that group, like Francis the Mute came out. And we both were like, this record is,
I think that, that is like the joy of getting into a scene so specifically, right? Is like it spins out into so many other things.
But I also think at that time it wasn't super judgmental. Like the whole point of it was people were sick of being judged, and there was this openness to kind of these other genres that splintered off from it.
Yeah, it's just interesting at that age as well. You are just so defined. Like, you don't have much to define yourself by because you haven't like had many life experiences. And so you latch on to a TV, or certainly me, like latch on to a TV show or a band, and that becomes your entire identity.
Yeah.
Which is why you do become so passionate and why Mexico City had fights between emos and punks. Because it's like it becomes part of you. And I miss that, like, as being an adult, because I still try and get into some new music. I don't want to just listen to the stuff that I listened to as a kid, which of course I'll always do. But it's harder to get into new stuff and have that same level of like, this is me and this is everything. Like, as an adult, you can't do that shit as much.
And I also think the way people take that music in, like going to shows like that, even compared to shows I will go to now, like the level of emotion that people are having at like a club with 1,000 people in it instead of a stadium with 18,000, like it can feel so big when everyone knows every word of every song.
It's like church, right? It's just this ultimate thing of being like, oh my God, we're all in this together and this is amazing. And that's another thing I miss as an adult as well. Like we're both, I think, been very lucky to go to a lot of shows now, but you're always chasing that thing. Like, I wish I could have that same level of excitement that I had as like an 18-year-old going to something.
Yeah.
But you'll never will, because you'll be like, you can be seeing the most amazing thing, but we're so like numb and we've seen so much, like you can't get that same hit.
It's just chasing all of these
like imagine
concerts.
The stuff that your kids, like imagine like what your kids are gonna experience, like what shows will give them that feeling.
Yeah.
And like you'll be silently judging them from the sidelines, being like, no, I know.
No, I mean, Calvin, I've gotten lucky. Like Calvin comes to a lot of his first concert was Portugal the Man and Alt J, and then
oh my God, yeah, no, you're guiding him down a path.
Yeah. He's seen some cool concerts, and like Vincent, when he was I think 6 months old, saw Andrew Bird play in a backyard.
Oh my God, this is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, so
I can't wait till they rebel against your taste and they just go to something that you just find incredibly obnoxious.
They get really into Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
That's the rebellion.
But yeah, they'll find joy in whatever they find joy in, and that's kind of amazing.
All right, so we teased this earlier on when I was putting together my presentation for this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to just text a lot of these people that I still am friends with and talk to
see how they feel
world.
About the genre of emo and being categorized potentially.
Yes. Everyone kind of filed into 3 different categories.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love the wall of text that came back to you. This is a very emo response.
So these were people that were kind of anti-emo.
Okay.
So Rocky Vodolato.
Okay.
I personally would consider my solo records more indie folk or singer-songwriter albums, but coming out of the punk and hardcore world and having so many friends related to that scene, I could see why some people might call it that. And that's fine with me as well. These days, I'm fine with people calling my music whatever genre they want, as long as they listen to it and hopefully come to a show.
Okay, I'm going to read out As Tall as Lions.
So this is Sean Fitzgerald from As Tall as Lions.
Okay, so for As Tall as Lions, I don't think so. I never liked that term applied to us, but sometimes you can't help what genre people put you in. We were from Long Island, and from that earlier 2000s period, we're on a label and toured with bands that I think would fit that moniker, so I totally get it. I guess I would like to think that our music was a little deeper than that. Oh, controversial.
Yep.
When I think of emo, I think of Hot Topic. Oh my God, Hot Topic.
Yeah,
that's an episode we have to do. And whining and some sort of punk or hardcore flair. When I think of my band, I don't really think of those things. Maybe whining with a little side eye.
So DeMar told me in regards to Plain White Tees, I'd ask, is Jimmy World an emo band? Because that's what they sounded like when I first heard them. And they were a part of the DIY Chicago scene.
Well, you're sort of like skirting, skirting things a little bit there.
We did have a...
Because Jimmy Eat World isn't an emo band. Are they?
I would consider them. But then I also told him, I was like, you don't think Hey There Delilah is like quintessential emo? And he was like, yeah, obviously.
You made him cave.
Yeah.
I love this.
All right. And then we got Kirk from Gatsby's American Dream.
Okay. He replied, I think we were lumped in as part of the early aughts mall emo. alternative fresh scene. But that was because we just happened to be a band at that time. But we were always told by labels that we should write songs more like the bigger emo bands at the time. But you'll read about it in the Volcano liner notes. I think we all believe after Why We Fight, we were just a rock band influenced by prog and indie artists. He goes on. This is great.
Yeah.
There's a lot you brought out a lot within this.
People really resonated with this question, which is what I liked.
It's great.
I did like one or two and was like,
I want to keep going.
And then I was like, oh, this is...
Because I thought you would just get
an
answer back like, no, we're not emo.
Yeah.
Or yes, we're definitely emo. Okay, he goes on. I also think lyrically we don't fit the emo thing because so much of that music is topically about inflicting pain because a woman hurt the songwriter, lol. And there's not a single Gatsby song about a singular woman or personal relationship. Good argument on that. Bobby always said theater was...
Bobby was one of the songwriters for Gatsby's American Dream.
Okay, Bobby always said theater was lyrically a rebuttal to all of the thematic elements that Saves the Day song about drowning a woman in the Hawthorne Heights songs about cutting someone's throat, etc. I'm lost here. You have to fill in some...
Emo music had a lot of rough lyrics. There was like a lot about suicide and cutting your wrists and like...
Yeah, as Vic talked about.
Yeah. And I can see now the like demonization of women.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it didn't come from that. And it was more...
That wasn't the intent.
It was more heartbreak. And,
yeah, but the mass sum was like, I'm a man and this woman has done wrong. She has made me feel terrible.
I don't know. Maybe I am looking at it with the wrong lens, but to me, I don't...
You're going back to that first breakup, first big breakup.
Emo music too much as like a misogynistic, like anti-woman thing, because there were still also bands like Paramore and
So this last quote that he's given you here.
This is a line from a Gatsby's American Dream song.
I mean, this is intense. I am I, and the world is a woman, and from who I must take. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, Well, it's a dark sort of note to end on.
Well, no, we're not.
Oh my God, there's more.
Done. What do you...
Oh my God. Okay. Who is Treos? What does that stand for?
So the Receiving End of Sirens. I asked Andrew.
Emo adjacent.
For sure.
Okay, I think that's the most direct answer we've gotten so far.
Yeah. These are more people that have accepted it.
I said we were always emotional post-hardcore.
Yeah. He's lived through this music. Like, he's been a part of this. He was in Receiving End of Sirens, A Rocket to the Moon. He plays with Dan and Shay now.
Right.
Which is like a country band.
Right.
So he has a good interpretation, I think.
Yeah, I think he's accepted it more.
All right. So then I asked Vic if he would call Pierce the Veil an emo band. He said, well, that's a loaded question. I think... for the purpose of the show, you can totally call us an emo band. We definitely fit that category since we grew up in it. Typically, if I'm in an Uber, I just say heavy rock or alternative rock because I don't think they'll know what emo is. We self-proclaimed ourselves as a made-up genre called Mexicore.
Love that.
Because we got sick of people asking what type of music we play.
It's really good. I feel like Mexico also like fits into that like battle between like punks and emos in Mexico. I think of that.
And I asked Bob Morris if he'd call the Hush Sound an emo band.
Yeah, we were definitely emo, but in a piano rock Ben Folds type way. That's a great answer.
Ben from Armor for Sleep said, that's a loaded question, but yes, in the grand scheme of things, I do consider ourselves an emo band.
Oh, I love the honesty. I love the directness.
That's what I mean. I think there's been this acceptance with a lot of this. And then Nick, again, theme song, do you consider the Spill Canvas an emo band?
I would say that I've grown into accepting that term to describe the band over the last 20 years. These days, I just embrace the descriptor.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
That was a really interesting social experiment and very, oh my God.
So
there's more.
Got two last ones.
Okay.
And these are, I think, the people that really embraced it. So Max Bemis, I asked him if he would consider Say Anything emo band. Big time. I just think a lot of bands are emo that are kind of not. I mean, the song Wonderwall by Oasis is emo. Weezer's emo. Drake is emo. Roy Orbison.
This is wild. Yeah, I mean, Wonderwall. I mean, they are sort of droning on about love in Wonderwall. And as Oasis was one of the first groups I ever got into, I never knew they were emo.
And then Justin from Motion City Soundtrack.
Well, I know others have said we're emo and others have said we are pop punk, but I always thought of us as shittier versions of all the alternative, terrible name for an entire genre, bands who blew up in the wake of Nirvana in the early 90s. The shit I grew up on ranged from Pavement to Weezer to Swerve Driver to Flaming Lips to Superchunk to Jawbox, etc. And I also love everything from The Commenters, Tom Waits, Venetian Snares, Dal the Funky Homo Sapien. So many names here.
Skip through some
I mean, I like a lot more than that, but I think listening to an eclectic mix of shit broadens the landscape of your music-related art making, and yet all my music sounds more or less the same, so what the fuck do I know? I don't care what people call us. You play with Fall Out Boy and Blink-182, and if Mark Hoppus produced 2 of your records, of course the pop punk handle is going to happen. You play with Taking Back Sunday and My Chem, and then you're emo. I'm just down to party.
Yeah, he's an emo elder. I would put Justin up there too.
Really appreciate
you
that
tour
answer.
with all those bands.
Yeah. And I think that's like a quote to take into the week. I'm just down to party.
Yeah.
Whatever you're into, just be into it and accept it and get on with life. Well, I feel educated. I have been expanded beyond the concept of just thinking emo music is defined by a long black fringe and like some piercings.
I'm glad.
And it was also just deeply embarrassing looking at my old reports from New Zealand. Okay, a little bit of feedback. As I mentioned at the top, a lot of feedback to our Autism reveal party. Thanks to everyone that emailed in. I want to do some blatant self-promotion now, if that's okay, because a lot of people wrote in with some other kind of spicy-brained stuff, and it just turns out I'd written about a bunch of the stuff on Webroom. So in regards to prosopagnosia, which is what I have, face blindness. Ages ago, I spoke to a doctor about what is going on when people can't recognize faces. And you can find that. I'll put this in the show notes, but that's at webworm.co/p/super recognizer. Also, that story I wrote about the telepathy tapes, it's called Telepathic Children Do Not Exist. That's at webworm.co/p/telepathy tapes. Again, I'll put that in the show notes. And some other links to stuff I've written. I also interviewed my friend Kate, who has a condition where she, actually, this is, I'm curious about you, Rob. Like if I say, like, picture an apple, can you see the apple in your head?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me as well. My friend Kate has a condition where she can't imagine anything in her mind. If you say, picture your bedroom and where things are, there is nothing. She's just got like nothing in there. And she has an entirely different way of visualizing things she's seen. And so that blew my mind. Some people don't have an inner monologue.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
That's like what's going on in there? How can you not have that?
Or just what your inner monologue is. Like I've heard some people say it's like a drill sergeant, coach, and cheerleader. And
is yours just you?
I think so.
Or someone else?
No,
I think mine's me.
It's me.
Just prattling on like I'm prattling on now. It's like I have to suffer through me every second.
Anxiously talking.
I think we're very similar. I'll put those articles in the show notes.
There was a lot of feedback to the autism episode. There was one point that I think resonated regarding the girlfriend in the episode.
Kira.
And her bluntness, which was, it seemed like something that a lot of people maybe with autism would appreciate, that bluntness, since there is social cues that are hard for them to read.
Yeah, a few people wrote in just essentially saying it was good to be clear.
Yeah, that like not having to read into these things, like that bluntness is helpful for people that have that condition.
And also remembering that, they have a 3-year relationship. They know how to communicate with each other. And I think, there was a perception I think that we both had of like, is this like being a bit mean? But they have and they're also like both, he's a comedian, she's very funny.
Yeah.
They have that dynamic as well.
I just found it interesting, like how it could have been misconstrued or we even both of us took
because
it.
Part of the episode was like, part of the learning is not just to like look at someone and judge the way they are acting and be like, they're this or that.
And I think part of it is we're not neurodivergent. And if someone was treating us like that, we would read into that differently.
Yeah, I think if you're not autistic, we have a different read on how things are.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think that, like, oh, that actually is helpful in this case, to where, to me, like, if someone was talking to me like that, it would make me insecure, and I, like, would feel like I was being talked down to.
Yeah. Laurie wrote in, she said there are groupings of characteristics used to classify the diagnosis, but ultimately, if you've met one person with autism, you've met just one person with autism. One thing that stuck with me is something a psychologist told us during an initial evaluation of my son at age 2. There have always been quirky people. We just have a name for it now, and we do not institutionalize them. When Lisa, who was the expert we spoke to in the episode, when Lisa said essentially the same thing in the episode, I was hollering, yes, thank you, much to the delight of my dog and the neighbors. Andy wrote in, speaking to kind of what you had spoken to before, Rob. As a late diagnosed autistic person myself, I get the vibe that his girlfriend just wanted answers and to figure out how to best live and work with her boyfriend. Like, having this answer opens up a whole new perspective on what his needs are and what adaptations can be made so that both of their needs are met in the relationship. Gina wrote in about, this is the kind of email we got about the telepathy tapes, which is like very typical. Be prepared to get your anti-woo-woo challenge by listening to the telepathy tapes podcast, which documents the way some non-verbal persons with autism can communicate via telepathy, mostly with each other and sometimes with their families and teachers. So fascinating. The podcast delves into the nature of consciousness in general. Just to reiterate, terrible pseudoscience. Telepathy tapes, don't listen to it, please. Jay said, I just listened to the autism episode. I just wanted to say thanks. I have a 2-year-old who was diagnosed with autism at the end of last year. I feel really grateful and privileged to have access to the resources she needs. I also have a teenager who is neurodivergent, and I myself have been in the process of getting a diagnosis. Hearing stories from people on the spectrum and the people who love them has made such a difference during a time when I find myself still figuring it all out. I burst into tears when I heard the hook reference, there you are, Peter. I have struggled to articulate my feelings around getting the diagnosis for my little one, and this just hit home. Sorry for the long message. But I just had to thank you for doing this episode, especially during these insane times. And this is Autumn who spoke to what you were saying, Rob. Thanks for addressing the topic in a thoughtful way. I wanted to defend and encourage the girlfriend at the autism reveal party. I was late diagnosed autistic at 40. It's helped me understand the world and my place in it a little better. I would not have survived my autistic tendencies in a neurotypical world without the kindness of blunt people. I can't read between the lines. I personally don't know what is considered weird unless someone tells me. And I think that's what you were speaking about earlier. Kathy wrote in about Bigfoot, which we mentioned in our Portland show. I think everyone is missing a vital piece of the puzzle when looking for Bigfoot. Don't hunters look for their prey's droppings to know what kind of animal they're hunting or looking for? I'm only guessing because as an Australian, I don't hunt, but I do know that kangaroos have been in my front yard or at the park because they shit everywhere. I thought this is sort of talking to your point, which was like, why haven't Bigfoot bodies been found?
Yeah.
As a Bigfoot defender,
You're
I will
a Bigfoot
say
defender now?
I'm just, someone has to defend them.
All right.
I think what Bigfoot are doing, they're intelligent. They don't want to be found.
They clean up after themselves.
And so when they shit, they fucking bury that stuff.
And they devour their dead.
They devour the dead, or maybe burial. Maybe they throw them in a river, tie a rock around their ankles and like throw the body in.
I mean, I guess if they're burying them, you would think it was just like a gravesite of...
Yeah, so a human, not a Bigfoot. So that's why Bigfoot aren't like your, silly kangaroo taking a dump on your lawn. They are highly intelligent. They don't want to be found, and so they are hiding.
And they're in such densely
wooded areas. Yeah, I mean, have you looked at the United States? It's a big place.
Yeah.
There's a lot of forests. There's a lot of places you can't even walk because it's too steep.
Yeah.
That's where they live.
They're living in homes within the mountains there.
So I just wanted to clear that up, Kathy. Just letting you know that's why.
Good. I mean, I'm almost convinced.
And I thought that would be a good place to end, just on that big bit of Bigfoot rebuttal.
Right.
Go listen to Rob's playlist that he's made for you. It's in our show notes. It was painstakingly created over the last 3 years. And so listen to that. And yeah, as always, we are flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com with any feedback. If you want to find out where to stream us or watch us on YouTube, our website is flightlessbirdpod.com.
Vic recorded us a special song to take us out of the episode.
Oh, I love Vic.
Here's a version of Bulletproof recorded just for Flightless Bird listeners.
Breathe you in with smoke in the backyard lights. We used to laugh until we choked, until the wasted nights. It was the best time of my life, but now I sleep alone. So don't wake me up, 'cause my thrill is gone. And the sunset turning red behind the smoke, forever and alone. You've gone and summoned me to this bed that tastes of you and me. Will never leave my lips again until the blinding rain. Blinding rain, I wanna hold your hand so tight. I'm gonna break my wrist, and when the vultures sing tonight, I'm gonna join right in. I'll sing along. Whoa, I don't know any other song. Whoa, 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 no, I'll sing along, but I'm barely hanging on. No, I'm barely hanging on. By the time you're hearing this, already begun. Well, there's nothing to do but scream at the drunken moon. This isn't fair. Don't you try to blame this on me. My love for you was bulletproof, but you're the one who shot me. And goddamn it, I can barely say your name. So I'll try to write it and fill the pen with blood from the sink. Whoa, yeah. But don't just say it. You should take my name. Pretend that it's a song, 'cause forever it's yours. And we can sing this on the way home. I'll sing